guys, welcome back to Hear Me Out. I'm E.
I'm D.
And today we're going to discuss the Real Housewives of Potomac, episode 15, season 8. The title of this episode is called Fool's Gold. This was a cluster.
Yeah.
We're going to read an article from Vulture. We're going to give you our opinions, of course, whether you want it or not, what we do, and we'll go on from there.
So, okay, the article from Vulture, it starts off this way. So, gentlemen, ladies, and ladies, it may have taken 15 episodes, but I am humbled to announce that we got our first solid episode of Potomac this season. Now, is the rubric currently on a curve? Absolutely. The bar is somewhere on the floor of Ashley and Gizelle's LuLaRoe knockoff warehouse. That said, the girls spoke to each other, acknowledged lingering conflicts, brought simmering subtext in front of the camera, and for the most part, looked good while doing it. That would normally be the bare minimum for a Real Housewives franchise. Still, given the general melees this season, I will claim the wins where I can get them. This episode successfully offers insight into the current power rankings of the women while offering some laughs. Let's go through the cast one by one. Okay. Reminder, Vulture article. Okay. It is only right that we start with our lady in beige, Gizelle Bryant. After mostly being in the background this season in a never-ending power play, she's forced to play her cards on camera when it comes to Wendy and Candace. You're either with her or against her. After clearly overhearing the comical loud grumbling over Wendy and Candace's behavior at dinner while Gizelle was speaking about Grace, the duo confronted the group about their complaints, and Gizelle goes from being riled up to apparently having her voice box stolen. She goes silent as the rest of the crew stutter and stammer through an explanation of why they are so enraged. Robin ultimately steps up to the plate and explains how they felt about Wendy and Candace's body language, which the duo quickly reboot. Reboot or rebut? Rebut, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Neither of them has any ill will toward Grace. They are simply uncomfortable when Gizelle commands the conversation since they are not on speaking terms. Wendy goes so far as to remind the group that Gizelle has accused her of speaking ill speaking ill will on her daughter previously, that she is aiming to steer clear of another hiccup, in which case she would have been well served to avoid making a ham-fisted critique about Giselle sending her daughter to school in Florida. But what's done is done. Gizelle is holding steadfast in her commitment not to give Wendy and Candace any camera time, so instead of going back and forth with the women over claims that she levied, she takes her grievances to Karen, chiding the Grand Dame for backing up the duo when they are talking about her oldest child. Karen appropriately calls out Gizelle's silent protest against Wendy and Candace, and Gizelle's expectation that anyone she considers an ally needs to vocally defend her opinions. Karen refuses, and Gizelle accuses her of being of two different opinions depending on what group she's associating with. A claim that editing tries to back up by showing Karen talking sideways about Gizelle to the outcast group. For Mrs. Huger's many faults, however, hiding her tensions with Gizelle is far from one of them. Her on and off spats with Gizelle are part of the lifeblood that gently pumps through Potomac's weakened corpse. Gizelle is simply making her line in the sand, and Karen refuses to bite. She'll humor the former First Lady while she delusionally insists that the colorism allegations are threatening her family's safety, but Karen will not ever forego her maverick position to play a lackey to Gizelle the way that Ashley does. This is partly why Karen retained her first chair at the reunion this season, while Gizelle's long-standing seat was given to Mia. That's true. Okay, so before we continue to the next housewife, what do we think so far about this commentary on Gizelle and Gizelle as a whole this episode?
So, if you guys haven't watched our other episode 14, which I don't remember the title, it was lame anyway, we mentioned that, they weren't discussing or they weren't trying to be or say ill will things about Grace.
Yeah.
So, it's evidence again by Wendy and Candace saying it. It's like, hey, we don't have no ill will towards Grace. We just don't like you, girl. Like, the sound of your voice annoys me. That's what that's saying. And I'm like, I don't know how nobody else saw that. I did appreciate when Karen said, well, y'all look at them sideways also. So, like, what's the deal here?
Yeah.
That's true. you know.
Yeah.
And I can appreciate what Karen said to Giselle when she said, well, you had your chance to speak up and you did it. And I
Yeah.
was like, oh, that was serious.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, that's your daughter and you're supposed to defend her, right? But is this grudge really worth it at this point? Like, what are you really mad at? I still don't understand at this
No.
point.
Yeah, I think that the fact that Giselle, especially in earlier seasons, was very much the one to pipe up and very much the one to go in on somebody, speak her mind. The fact that this season she has remained quiet in
Hmm.
some kind of silent protest of having to work with Wendy and Candace,
True.
it just makes her look bad. Because if, again, and we've had these conversations about Wendy and how she's made herself look bad. Well, Giselle is doing that right now because Wendy came to them. Wendy said, "What's the issue? What's going on?"
Hmm.
And Wendy, not only did she like come at them and say, "Hey, what's going on?" Not only did she go ahead and refute the information, but she also brought up exhibit A, "You've done this to me before." Should Wendy have even bothered saying or commenting anything about Grace attending a school in Florida? Probably not. Given that this is how everything turned out. But if y'all saw our last recap, I did say that that was a wasted opportunity where the ladies could have really had some real conversations surrounding the topic.
Yeah.
And so the fact that Giselle, Robin, Mia, whomever were all trying to make it seem as though, oh, Candace and Wendy were basically making faces about Grace. No, they weren't. Like that never seemed to be the point of it. Whatever editing tricks the producers had, it didn't come across that way to me, and I don't think it came across that way to you.
Yeah.
So the fact that now Wendy's here, like, okay, let's talk about it. What's going on? What's the deal? And then Giselle completely shuts down. It
Hmm.
makes her look bad.
Yeah.
Like, you had a lot of crap to say before Wendy stepped up. You had a lot. Oh, they can't say that, and I don't, and like a whole lot of attitude. And immediately she like completely vanished into the background. So I do agree with what Karen said. Like, you had your chance, you could have said something and you didn't.
Hmm.
And the fact of the matter is that they all do the same thing whenever anyone says anything about one of the kids, or some kind of behavior surrounding the kids. It's like it's a line in the sand, like Karen said. So it's like, why not emphasize that if that's really like your gripe right now? But I just think honestly Giselle has no interest in even trying at this point. I think
Hmm.
that she's going to continue with her silent protest, thinking that she's going to come out on top, and she might because she's been there for a long time and she's got her own following, her own base. And Wendy and Candace are doing their own little antics that make them look bad. So Giselle may come out winning, but I really hope she doesn't, because this doesn't feel like it's even remotely productive, and it's not good TV either. Like,
Hmm.
the same way in which her and Karen were able to have that conversation and then hug it out at the end. I'm not saying she needs to hug it out with Candace or with Wendy, but at the very least, like, make some sort of attempt. I feel like she's always made it a point that other people need to come to her. Other people need to like somehow apologize to her, bow down to her.
Yeah.
She won't take accountability for whatever she's doing either.
Mhm.
So, anyway, that's what I thought about that one.
I, I think she does need to go. And she used to be one of my favorites. She's gorgeous. She's shady. I mean, that makes for
Yeah.
great TV. But I mean, what we're gonna get, like, what, season 9 of
Yeah.
this same stuff? And we clearly see that Candace and Wendy, they'll have conversations with other people that they don't like. I don't
Yeah.
know. I guess Candace and Wendy, not Candace, Candace and Ashley are friends now because they're talking to each other. I'm like, okay, they're
All
on
friendly.
this episode. She's even
Yeah.
defending her. Now I see Wendy talking to people minus NECA.
Right.
But I think Giselle is the one causing this. uncomfortableness, as it's pointed out by what's her name, Kiarna,
Ma'am, you know
her-
I can't get it
that,
right.
that girl with the K, that new girl.
Yeah.
She pointed it out. I'm like, she's the one making it uncomfortable,
Yeah.
and I don't think season 9 or however many seasons can sustain this divide. To be
No.
honest.
No, definitely not.
Hmm.
Okay, next housewife. Back to the Vulture article. Speaking of Mia, my fellow Amazon has truly stepped up to the plate this season. Yes, she has. Fighting to make lemonade from a batch of moldy lemons. Not only does Mia spend the episode interacting with both camps, even going so far as to create a truly humorous moment out of going to tennis lessons with Wendy and Candace in heels, she is unafraid to throw a budding friendship to the wolves to move the plot forward, which is exactly the kind of low stakes ruthlessness needed for a housewife power player. In one episode, not only does she breezily reveal that she made a coin by catering to the robust community of foot enthusiasts in her former line of work, but she puts Ashley through her paces and demands that she disclose the state of her personal life and divorce after gossiping about it at the tennis courts. Mia lays plain what everyone else has simply been murmuring, that despite Ashley's complicated feelings over losing a father-like figure in her husband, it certainly seems that she was really ready to move on with her life until she realized that the post-nup left her in a financial bind, forcing her to slow things down until she gets her ducks in a row. It's a bitter pill in place in front of Ashley, which or who is supposed to be in the midst of a belated birthday celebration, but it forces her to answer some hard questions on camera. It is tough to know where to start with Darby's former Barbie, perhaps with the discovery that her estranged husband is saved in her phone as Mickey Darby. But it is pretty clear that Ashley feels she is somewhere between a rock and a hard place. As has long been surmised, Michael no longer wants anything to do with the franchise that he allegedly terrorized with, with his wandering hands and unscrupulous drunkenness, and has in fact threatened to sue if even a frame of him lands on camera. Despite a healthy paycheck as a reality star, Ashley is still relying on her ex partner to make ends meet. And after prodding from Mia in production, reluctantly admits that that they still operate a joint account for childcare, groceries, and Uber Eats. She has a credit card for emergencies, and he helps her with the car payment. It is not stated explicitly, but the implication is that once the final paperwork is executed, the safety net would be revoked, save for childcare assistance, leaving her in a bind until she finishes recalibrating her finances. Now, I am unsure if her Fabletics venture will help take her there, but all jokes aside, it is a bit depressing to see Ashley celebrating her Havana-themed birthday with such a state of unease about her life. She's too weary to even acknowledge an ongoing flirtation with retired NFL tight end Vernon Davis. The spoiled Barbie fantasy is over, and she is struggling to accept this change. When production flips through her catalog of an on camera birthday celebration, not only does this one have a bit more somber edge to it, but it also feels like the close of her arc on screen. If she is so beholden to the whims of her ex for a cash infusion, it seems nigh impossible that she will be able to give compelling television short of her being brave enough to cut the strings and rebuild on her own. Well, I have plenty of thoughts, but you go ahead.
No, no, no. You go ahead.
I said this before. I don't understand why she is sticking around. I mean, in in theory, yes, I get it. Hello, money. But the fact that she is like she's trying to play coy, and the fact that we all saw how perfectly fine she was with the idea of getting a divorce, and now all of a sudden it's a change, which I'm glad that Mia pointed that out. Um, it's it's just like, girl, we know what it is, and obviously I don't think she can admit that on camera, and I'm not saying that she should, but I think that she really needs to sign those papers, or she needs to execute the divorce, like because there really isn't going to be much for her as far as a housewife if she's not providing, like they said in this article, a compelling storyline. Her rebuilding her life could actually be very beneficial for her in more ways than one, not
Yeah.
just because she can gain her freedom, but also because she can find her own financial independence. That is a storyline that so many women would be able to connect to. In fact, plenty of the women discussed on their confessionals about how heartbreaking it is being a child of divorce, dealing with divorce themselves, and all of that. Like, it can be such a relatable storyline for her. And the fact that she is delaying it, and we all kind of know she's delaying it because of money, it kind of feels like a little, I don't know, just weird. Like, it doesn't feel right, you know? But yeah, those are some.
But a rebuttal. Giselle and Robin are not bringing anything to the storyline either. At least Ashley is like, combative and then friendly and then quirky. And then, there's like some sauce to her. And then, you kind of, she's pretty transparent, with her
Yeah.
life. And we see her family, minus Michael Darby, of course. So I think she has way more content than Giselle and Robin. Robin, we're still talking about Juan Dixon. There's nothing else. I mean,
Yeah.
we she has her hat line. What's it called? Embellished. We don't hear
Yeah.
about it. What
Right.
happened with the depression that she was going through during the pandemic when
Right.
everyone called her ugly, which was, rude. I
Very.
mean, Giselle, I still haven't seen Homie since the first episode. What's his name?
I don't
I want
know.
to call him Jamal, but it's not
It's
Jamal.
not Jamal.
I'm like, well, she doesn't have a love life, or she's not addressing it here. I'm like, I mean, I get the daughters. I mean, it's cool, pretty unrelatable to me, but no, I'll still watch it.
Yeah.
But okay, after her daughters graduate, what does she have? And
Yeah.
the twins are graduating next year.
Right.
Then what's her storyline? She's not
Right.
even she's not even shady because she's not talking to two of them.
I
So
know.
like, what's her purpose there?
Yeah.
But I do understand what you're saying that, that would be Ashley divorcing Michael will be very relatable and starting over. And, the way they co parent, we really don't see that on Housewives. So
Yeah.
that would be an interesting perspective. But Mia, let's jump back to her.
Oh,
She's
Mia.
a hot mess. Like during this whole Dominican Republic trip, which, by the way, I have a little grievance with all the housewives
Same.
because they're saying la Dominican. They said, or I think they said "Orale way" or something, and then they said something,
Arriba, arriba.
oh, arriba, arriba, and then they said like a Cuban slang, and I'm like, what? You guys are mixing it on
Havana
the
Nights.
Havana Nights, and then when they were taking pictures, they were like, "Kiss my rare," but in Spanish,
Uh-huh.
which is slang to like particular, I think it was like probably Cuban or some Central American rendition. I'm like, can y'all stop, please? Y'all are in Dominican Republic, not the Dominican. I don't know. Are people
La
confusing it with
Dominicana. I think they said the
Dominica?
Dominicana or something like that. I'm like,
It's
girl,
driving me crazy. I mean, it was just rocking my nerves. I just had to
same,
get that out there.
same.
But Mia, in this Dominican Republic trip, she has, basically worked at the steak and lobster place, had a foot fetish, had an inheritance, then she's dead broke, left with a couple $100 with her child and ran. She made more money than Gordon, but then she was the gold. I'm like, is she trying to confuse me? Is she picking up storylines from every other housewife to make her life interesting? I don't know whether to laugh or tell that girl to seek some help because is she believing these lies? Is this just good TV?
I tell you what is working.
I mean,
Because the way Mia is getting all of the plot lines right now, even
she
if
has
they're
the
made up.
second seat, I guess, right? To
Yeah,
Karen.
yeah, yeah, that's true.
And she hasn't
So,
even spoken about the divorce yet.
no,
I'm like, she was, throughout all these episodes, she's like, "Oh, I'm getting divorced. I retained an attorney." Da da da. And now she confronted Ashley about her being a gold digger. I'm like, the pot caught in the kettle black. And then
Ashley called
Ashley,
her out.
and then she's like, "Yeah." And I'm like, I can't. I just can't keep up. I can't
I
keep
might
up.
have. Oh, all right.
Like, how do
Okay.
you fight that?
You can.
You cannot.
We've had this discussion on so many recaps. there's nothing you can say to Mia.
It's comical.
It's like nothing. Like you'll see that, people try to come at Karen, Karen will get mad, Karen will fight back. Wendy, same thing. Candace, obviously. Gizelle, obviously. Even Ashley sometimes she'll be like a little defensive. Mia is just like, okay, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, you right. I probably did marry him for money.
Mm-hmm.
And then what do
Got
you
to take
say?
them off more.
Exactly.
I can't deal with her.
I,
She's too.
so if in fact the article mentioned it, and I don't know, I haven't seen anything about the reunion, but basically she's saying that she got Giselle's first chair at the reunion. That makes some sense to me now
Wait,
because
Karen got the first chair, or was it Mia?
yeah, there's Andy has the
Right.
two. Yeah, so Karen kept hers
Uh
and
huh.
Mia got Giselle's.
Ah.
Because I don't know if Giselle was in the first chair last reunion. Was she? I don't think she was actually.
Well, if this is not a wake up call to Giselle, be like, girl, get your shit together. I don't know what is. Because you're just going to be falling down that couch, like just
Yeah.
scooting over more and more until you're not there.
Yeah. So, oh, one last thing about Ashley, because as we discussed, there's so many gripes about them being in DR and just being hella disrespectful. Why did Ashley come to her Havana Nights themed dinner,
Looking like
dancing
Cabana.
samba, dressed in carnival like Brazil?
I don't know. I'm gonna excuse it because she probably thought it was like Mardi Gras. I don't know. Maybe it just felt. I don't. I have no idea. I can't.
I
I
was
didn't even notice that.
I noticed because I'm like, is she dancing samba? Is she dressed in carnival outfit like gear? I was very confused.
They
Very.
just clumped all our cultures into one,
They
basically.
did. They did because even Wendy looked like Chiquita Bonita. And I was like, ain't that like supposed to be like a Cuban thing?
I'm telling you, I was so annoyed. I'm like, I can't. I'm like, we always have to fight these stereotypes because people think we're either, depending on where you live, they think we're all Mexican.
Yeah.
Or if you're in Florida, South Florida, they probably think you're all Cuban.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or, they don't know where Central America is. It's like, what's that? Where is
I
that?
think it's in Mexico.
Oh yeah, it's in Mexico.
That's
So
what they
just
think.
guys, just do better. It's just a little thing, but it's a big thing.
Yeah. There's a lot of us from a lot of different places.
Yeah.
Just throwing all that out there, and just to let's go ahead and throw the biggest monkey wrench. We're not Spanish because we're not from Spain.
Mm.
So there's that too.
Oh,
Okay. We're
this
not going
perfect.
into that education right now. All right. So, next from Vulture. Despite being introduced into the season relatively late, Kiana? They spelled it Kiana, but I thought it was Kierna. Anyway, is quickly making headway in navigating her relationships in the group. When Robin and Giselle question her about Wendy while their group is skeet shooting, Kiana, I'm sure it's Kierna, parries the interrogation. Kierna is sharp, quick, and unafraid to think and speak for herself, as well as leverage her outsider status to bring up tensions within the group. Her poking around forces Giselle and Winnie to acknowledge the root of the hostility and admit that a resolution is coming nowhere soon. The best anyone can hope for is cordial behavior. Unfortunately, cordial behavior makes for utterly boring television. I am not going to advocate for the women to forgive each other prematurely, but they certainly will need to learn how to laugh and banter among one another without reservation. If a lifestyle show cannot successfully have its cast interact with each other, then there is truly only one solution: a casting shakeup. I don't make the recommendation lightly, and I am not quite ready to judge who is next on the chopping block, but something has to give, and soon. Next week, we have Charisse hosting a proper Maryland crab boil and the return of Jacqueline.
I know, you
Um,
guys. I can't
Before we
wait.
get to the cherry blossoms, what do we think about Kieran? Okay.
Our girl Kay.
Yes.
Maybe I guess that Vulture article is pretty correct because they weren't talking to each other, they weren't addressing it, and I feel like this episode they addressed all the issues in the first 14 episodes. We spoke
Yes.
about Juan Dixon, why Giselle's not talking to somebody. my
Mhm.
daughter, I'm afraid, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know, little dabs of Michael Darby and his beef,
Right.
just everything. And I was like, whoa, whoa, whoa. And it was just so fast
Yeah.
that I kind of didn't like it because we're just addressing it, but we're not resolving it.
Right.
So I see why they needed to bring her fresh eyes,
Yeah.
to the group to like try
Mhm.
to, make amends. I don't know if it's working because she was ready to fight NECA, and I was like, oh, I want to see this.
That turned, I don't even know, sideways so fast.
And there should be something said about Wendy not saying anything ill will about Gizelle.
Yeah.
So I'm like, Gizelle,
Right.
cut it out, like Uncle Joey, like
No,
you're
you're
too.
right. That's a good point. And when Kay said it, I thought, oh, okay. I mean, that's something, right? Because you guys are, meaning Giselle and Robin, are constantly bad mouthing Wendy, but Wendy could have said some stuff to her friend and she did not. And at this point, we can tell that Kay lady, she ain't got no reason to lie. No tiene pelos en la lengua, which I don't know how to say in English, but yeah, she doesn't bite her tongue.
Yeah,
So I don't think she would lie about that. So that leads me to the understanding that for Wendy, I think Wendy would want to move forward with Giselle. I get that feeling like Wendy would want to. And this was probably the first episode where I thought, there's the Wendy that we all knew and loved, because
hmm,
she just seemed like, okay, yeah, we have beef, we have problems, but I mean, we're friends. Yeah, and so that is who became one of my favorites. And
hmm,
I wish that she would continue down that path versus where she was going with the whole NECA thing. But here again, we're highlighting the fact that Giselle is just inadequate when it comes to this setting. She's not who she used to be in this friend group anymore. She
yeah,
can't boss everybody around like she used to. She can't get everybody to be like on her side or whatever like she used to. It is different. A
mhm,
lot of these women are very independent. They have their own, mindset. Even though NECA's very friendly with her, I think even NECA would probably like, if she didn't have her own situation with Wendy, I think even NECA would probably be like, hey, this is unnecessary. Like I get that kind of a vibe from the whole situation. So it sucks to say because Giselle has been there from day one, but I don't see where she goes from here as
yeah.
far as, the plot, the storyline. There's not much. I know her and Ashley are trying to do the clothing line thing. I mean, I
We
don't
only saw like 30 seconds of it.
that yeah, exactly. Anyway, okay. Now to
Wait,
the cherry blossom.
before you start with the cherry blossom, so they didn't want to talk. Vulture didn't want to talk about NECA, Candace, Robin. Who else? Like,
Girl, Robin didn't do anything. And what did Candace do?
exactly, exactly.
What did
Remove
Candace
her.
do?
Nothing, and she's annoying
Exactly.
me too.
That's another one.
That's
That's
another.
another. I mean, there's not much to say about Candace in the episode. Not much to say about Robin in the episode, aside from Robin did a really good job hosting. I'll give her that.
Real, she did
She did. Karen and her
antics.
Karen and her antics. It's why we love her. But sometimes I just be like, dang it, Karen.
I know.
Like,
All I know is she really wants to work her inner thighs.
and I didn't need to know that.
I know, Karen, you're too much sometimes.
Just, yeah, yeah. Are we ready for the cherry blossoms?
Are we? Okay.
Okay, so I know I've criticized Potomac's somewhat limited budget this season, but seriously, it's hard to watch what the show passes for a Havana Nights themed celebration when the Miami Housewives just executed the same theme and delivered with flying colors. Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
The show is trying to make an ongoing bit out of Karen being a drunken, horny auntie who wants to sleep with her trainers, and the delivery is just not clicking for me. I think we know well enough to understand that the Grand Dame likely has a wandering eye, wet dreams notwithstanding. That said, unless tangible evidence is produced to gossip about and Ray moves out of their rental, I am patently uninterested in ongoing speculation that goes nowhere. I wish Karen the best on her outer thighs and her calcium percentages. Whew, okay, before I get to the last two cherry blossoms, I have some thoughts on this, but do you think anything on this whole Karen cherry blossom?
I don't know why was the trader so secret, like his name or his identity so secret. And then this episode, that's all we spoke about. And Ashley has a thing with him. I think that peeved Karen. I'll be like, he was mine to begin with.
You caught that.
Yeah, and he's fine. I just gotta say that real
I mean,
quick.
yes, he is. He's a very good man.
What do you think?
Okay. So one of them, and I can't remember who, so hopefully you remember.
Uh,
I think it was Mia. Didn't they call him Uncle Ben or the rice? No, the peanut man. What
right?
Ray looks like the peanut man. I think it was Mia. Y'all correct me if I'm wrong in the comment. I think Mia said
She probably did because she's beefy
peanut,
with her.
the peanut man, like the with the monocle.
Yes.
That's messed up. The last thing I'm gonna say on this cherry blossom is that I agree. If there's no evidence, they need to stop talking about this because at the end of the day, Karen is the one who's been married to her husband the longest. Clearly, Ray is there for her every season. Ray shows up to every reunion. So y'all leave Uncle Ben alone. I'm sorry, Ray.
Hi.
Sorry. I'm
Yeah.
sorry, Mr.
Uh-huh.
DJ. I'm so
Yeah.
sorry.
Hmm.
But I do love Ray. I do. And they need to leave him alone.
Really? I couldn't tell.
Leave me alone. No, but seriously, like at the end of the day, like Karen said, they're an institution. They've been together forever. They've raised a family. And does Karen give off a little bit of like some thirsty vibes? Sometimes, yes. But I mean, she's in triple 20. She can do whatever she wants. Obviously, within limits of like what her marriage is about. But I think that she does have she has the most stable relationship in the group as far as her marriage. And so them continuing to make it seem as though she's doing this or she's doing that, I think it's disrespectful to Ray because he watches the show with Karen, and that's sucky. Like, the man
Yeah.
ain't did nothing to nobody. The man is nothing like Michael Darby, who nobody could stand. The man is nothing like Juan Dixon, who nobody could stand. The man is nothing like Jamal, who came in and out and left because apparently he had another kid outside of a relationship, whatever. He's
Right.
nothing like Chris Bassett, although Chris Bassett really, there's not much drama with him other than, people don't seem to think that he does much, but that's a whole other story. And we don't really know much about Eddie, and we don't really know much about Ike. So again, leave Ray alone, guys.
That's
Stop it.
true. Hmm.
Okay. Last two cherry blossoms. Candace doesn't know which way is up when it comes to articulating her outstanding issue with Robin, and it is truly unbecoming of her. What's done is done at this point, but she is not winning any points by continuing to struggle with whether she loves or hates Robin on any given week. And the last cherry blossom. What is it with people liking to push folks into pools? Not everyone can swim, and it's just dangerous. Stop shoving, please. I think that I think Mia and Wendy are starting to have an Ashley and Candace relationship. Like, do you kind of get that vibe? Like,
Hmm.
because they beef, but then they're like friendly.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I don't understand, but I'm guessing they're just basically, the older version of Candace and Ashley.
I could see that.
Yeah. Anyway, any final thoughts?
No, I'm over them. Like, how many more episodes till the season ends?
I don't know, maybe 5? I'm not sure. I think they're usually like what, 18, 19, 20 around there.
Yeah.
So
Well, we'll see what's gonna happen because I don't know.
Charisse brings the drums next week, so I am looking forward to that.
Jacqueline. And why was she screaming?
Girl, I don't know. And it sounded like she was screaming at Robin. Now, see, this dramas I'm looking forward to. Because I had totally forgot Potomac even came on this past Sunday, y'all. He had to remind me. I was like, dang, I forgot
I
about that.
know, and that was yesterday. I was like, oh yeah, that happened.
Dang.
That's what the show has become. Like we used to look forward to Potomac
Yeah.
coming on, and now it's like, oh yeah, about that.
Yeah, we gotta watch.
Even then, the episode is 42 minutes long, and I take 8 breaks because I'm like, I can't. I'm thirsty. I can't. Let me fold clothes. I can't. Let me take a nap. Me
Oh
too
no.
better Potomac. But
Yeah.
that concludes today's episode, guys. Let us know in the comments what you thought about the episode, Mia's messiness, and her habitual lying behind.
Socrates is what Wendy called
So,
her.
what do we think about, I guess, Candace? She doesn't even know if she wants to be Robin's friend or not. Leave it in the comments. Should they be friends? Yes or no? At this point, I don't know.
Yeah.
Giselle, what do we do with her? Because dot ellipses. Let us know in the comments.
Ellipsis.
But if you haven't already done so, please subscribe, turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any of our videos. Also, please share our video. We're trying to grow our community so your friends can be our friends, so we can all be friends. We also have social media, which Steve will tell you about.
We're on TikTok and Instagram. Hear me out, DNE. So make sure you guys like, follow, share, and comment. We enjoy interacting with y'all.
All right, guys, we'll see you next time. Peace.
Bye.
Bye bye.